श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अज्ञानाञ्जनभीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीम्. Dear friends, welcome to the 34th session of our discussions on Prabodha SUDHAKARA. So, we have seen 15 chapters in this text so far. We are now to enter the 16th chapter. Till the previous chapter, Bhagavad Padal was describing the process and the results of attaining Atma Jnanam, the nature of Atma Jnanam, the process of attaining it, and the results. Essentially, as prerequisites to the learning of Vedanta or the understanding of Vedanta, which leads to eventually to Atma Jnanam. The prerequisites were mentioned quite some time back in the initial chapters, if you may remember, as the Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi, Viveka Vairagya Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi, Mumukshutvam. These were the fourfold qualifications which are necessary for the completion and the successful grasping of the Jiva Brahma Aikya Jnana, which is expounded or which is demonstrated, explained in the Upanishads, that is in the Vedanta. In order to gain this Viveka Vairagya and the other qualifications, one must have this practice of karma and upasana according to yogic method, that is with the attitude of yoga. In other words, the essential requirement is to do karma, whatever is the karmas which the Shastra has enjoined on us, to do all these karmas without the desire for enjoying their fruits, purely as devotional service to Bhagavan, and experience or enjoy the fruits of these karmas, that is, experience all the life experiences without having any complaints or attachments, with the feeling that these experiences are resulting due to Bhagavan's grace alone, and I don't have any preference towards them. Whatever is being received as an experience is Bhagavan's gift. With that attitude, one has to proceed in one's life. This is Karma Yoga. Then in Upasana, special methods of meditation, of concentration on various forms of the Lord, various kinds of meditation are prescribed by the Upasana Kanda in the Vedas, as well as many other Smriti Granthas, which can be practiced for making the mind into a pure mind, a mind which is capable and qualified of understanding Vedanta Jnanam to its completion. So, in that process, this word yoga is there, which is mentioned in Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. Upasana Yoga is also Karma Yoga, except that the karmas involved are mental karmas. They involve the mind, Manasika Karma. So, this yoga word, which attaches itself to Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, distinguishes the Karma Yoga from mere practice of karma with desire for effort, with desire for the results of that karma. Similarly, one may practice various kinds of meditation with the desire for some particular phala, some particular karma phala, some particular results which one may be desirous of. So if this attitude of having desires in the results of the karma or upasana is there, then this karma or upasana does not become yoga. It does not generate the requisite qualifications for Vedantic study. So yoga therefore presupposes that one must not desire for the fruits of the karma or upasana being done, which means that one must have the practice of karma and upasana done purely with the attitude of bhakti towards the Lord, purely with the attitude of devotion towards the Lord. Just as a servant serves the master and has complete faith in the master that the master will take care of whatever I desire. I don't have to desire anything. I am only existing. I am only interested in serving the master according to whatever the master requires, or that is whatever the master's commands are. In the same way here, the karma, the various swadharma and the upasanas have to be performed with the attitude that Bhagavan is the master, I am merely a servant who is interested to serve the master in the best way possible without having any desire in what the master may provide for me, because I know that the master will provide for me in the best manner possible. After all, he is perfect. The Bhagavan is a perfect person, a perfect consciousness who can know what I need and provide that for me. I don't have to struggle to tell Bhagavan this is what I need. Bhagavan knows what is required, and whatever is required, he will provide. This is the attitude. So, bhakti is very much needed in the practice of karma and upasana yoga. This bhakti is of twofold nature, which is being described in this particular chapter. In fact, this bhakti matures slowly into jnanam, as we will see in this chapter, and the subsequent chapters will describe the common meaning of bhakti that we are all familiar with. It will clarify that aspect, as well as it will talk about this higher order bhakti, the bhakti of the more subtle nature, which is of the internal bhakti, the upasana based bhakti, as well as the jnana based bhakti also. So slowly the gross practice, the practice of bhakti at the physical level slowly matures into the practice of bhakti at the mental level via upasanas, which slowly matures eventually into jnana itself. So here in this chapter, Vidha Bhakti Prakaranam, two types of bhakti is being mentioned. One is of the sthula form, that is of the more of the physical form, let us say, the common meaning of bhakti, which we all know, the devotional practices of various types. The second bhakti, which is talked about, is a more subtle bhakti in which the bhakti has, that is the first type of bhakti, has slowly maturing into this more subtle form where the internal characteristics of a bhakta are mentioned. The mature bhakta, how that person behaves, that is all talked about. So this is the Sukshma Bhakti, which is the bhakti of a mature individual, a spiritually mature person. This is being talked about here. Together, this is called Vidha Bhakti Prakaranam. This chapter therefore describes the two types of bhakti. Now let us go ahead and study the first verse. चित्ते सत्त्वोत्पत्तौ तटिदिव बोधाधयो भवति तर्ह्येव स स्थिरः स्यात् यदि चित्तं शुद्धिमुपयाति चित्ते सत्त्वोत्पत्तौ बोधाधयः भवति तर्ह्येव स स्थिरः स्यात् यदि चित्तं शुद्धिमुपयाति. So here this chitta shuddhi, one word is there in the second half of the verse, chitta shuddhim payati. Similarly, in the first half of this verse, we read this phrase, chitte satvotpattihi, that is the when in the mind, when in the manas, that is the chitta, this sattva guna becomes predominant. Chitte sattvoৎpattihi means what? In the chitta, the sattva guna becomes the predominant guna. Then tatidiva bodhadayaha bhavati. Then in this purified mind, shall we say, in this sattva guna predominant mind, bodhadaya, that is the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge arises in a flash, tatidiva, immediately, as soon as the sattva guna arises, slowly as soon as the sattva guna arises, the mind becomes capable of attaining spiritual knowledge. Which spiritual knowledge is being spoken about? All the values which were mentioned prior to this, as well as the Vedanta Jnana itself, the mind attains the ability to gain this knowledge only when the Sattva Guna is predominant. This Sattva Guna of the mind can be characterized by a calmness and sharpness of intellect. Both of them together imply Sattva Guna. We have to understand that there is a calmness associated with the mind. The mind is not disturbed unduly by kama or krodha. That is part one. So there is a calmness. Then there is a sharpness of intellect, at least with respect to the spiritual nature, spiritual things, spiritual matters. That is, the mind is alive. It is very sharp in thinking about the Atma Gunas, the Atma, the Brahma, Vedanta Vishayaha. Whatever Vedanta Vishayas are there, the subject matters of Vedanta, the subject matters associated with Bhagavan, the various values that are to be practiced, Ahimsa, Satyam, Ityadi, then the practices which are to be adopted, like meditation, concentration, dhyana, japa, etc. These matters, the mind is very much alert. So calmness, that is lack of kama krodha disturbances, and alertness with respect to all religious and spiritual matters must be there in the mind. Then only we say that the sattva guna is predominant in the mind. In that mind, bodhadayaha bhavati, that mind becomes capable, or that mind becomes alive to the spiritual knowledge. Then in such a mind, further progress, tarhyeva sthiraha syat yadi chittam shuddhim upayati. So this mind in which the sattva guna arises, if that sattva guna has become stabilized by continuous practice of spiritual practices, spiritual sadhanas, this sattva guna, when this becomes stabilized in the mind, then the mind attains clarity, the mind attains purity, chitta shuddhi, that is called. A sustained practice of spirituality, spiritual practices, sadhana, continuous appreciation of the sattva guna in the mind, continuous depreciation of the rajo tamo guna in the mind, results in the chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. Such a mind only we call this mind has attained chitta shuddhi. So predominantly in such a mind, at no time of the day the sattva guna disappears. The sattva guna is predominant throughout the waking state. In a normal person, this may not be the case. In a normal, religious, yet worldly person, this may not be the case. When such a person is in the midst of some deep spiritual thinking, deep spiritual thoughts, or doing some japa dhyana, soon after that or during that process, the person could be possibly in a sattvic state, with a sattvic state of mind. But the moment or within a few moments when that person arises from the japa, dhyana, or the spiritual thoughts, spiritual thinking, reading spiritual books, etc., when the person moves out of that activity, then rajo guna and tamo guna may be predominant. For example, rajo guna is in the form of desire for sensual pleasures, worldly pleasures, and competitive mind, a mind which is interested in competing in the world and attaining some bonus points over some other person, attaining victory over other person, trying to go ahead of others, etc. So that is rajoguna. Tamoguna, the person may be interested in just lying down lazily without doing anything at all. This kind of feeling may also be there in that person. One thing or the other, Rajoguna, Tamoguna may be predominating. Sattva guna may be there, but it is there only during some specific phases of the day or once in a few days or only during some specific activity. Such a mind, even though Sattva guna has arisen in that mind, Sattva guna is appreciated, the sadhaka, that person is practicing some sadhana, the chitta shuddhi is not yet gained. That's what we have to say. But if these spiritual sadhana is practiced repeatedly, then the chitta shuddhi is gained only in such a mind, tarhyeva sasthiraha. This bodha, this knowledge of the Jiva Brahma Aikya, that is this knowledge of the Atma, Advitiya Atma will become established. Sthiraha bhavati, sthiraha syat, that will become established in this mind. So therefore, the necessity of having chitta shuddhi is being spoken about. First, we have to get the sattva guna up. The sattva guna will come up only by bhakti, that is karma yoga, the yogic, with a yogic mind. That yogic mind here stands for Ishvara, connection with Ishvara. In karma yoga and upasana yoga, yoga means to connect with Ishvara. Connecting with Ishvara with the exclusion of worldly desires. This connection with Ishvara can be established only if the mind is free from worldly thoughts. Only if there is bhakti in the mind for the Lord, and that is the only desire this person has, not any worldly desires. Kama is not there, Krodha is not there, bhakti for the Bhagavan is there. Only in such a mind the Chitta Sattva will be there. Then the Sattva Guna will be predominant. Then the Sattva Guna has to be established firmly. That is possible only with sustained practice of karma and upasana yoga, that is karma and upasana filled with bhakti. So let us continue. Shuddhyati hi nantaratma Krishna padam bhoja bhakti mrite vasanamiva ksharodaihi bhaktya prakshalyate chetaha. Krishna padam bhoja bhaktim rite shuddhyati na antaratma. That is the first half of the verse. Krishna padam bhoja bhakti. Bhakti, this much we understand. Bhakti towards the feet of Lord Krishna. This Lord Krishna here is used as a pratika, is used as one of the forms in this text. This text, we have discussed this thing before, long before when we started the text. In this text, Krishna is the form of the Lord which is taken up. However, this Krishna form of the Lord has some, while it has some very important characteristics for the Vedanta sadhaka, Bhagavan Krishna, that form, as we have studied in the stories, is considered to be a Mahavatara, is considered to be a great incarnation of the Lord, specifically meant for teaching humanity about various truths. So, when we consider Bhagavan in the Krishna form as Jagat Guru, in the during the Chaturmasya Vrata, as you might have seen, our Acharyas do worship of Jagat Guru Trayam. So, three Shishya Jagat Gurus and their Shishyas, our Acharyas, pay their obeisances via doing the puja. Who are they? Bhagavan Krishna and the disciples, Bhagavan Sri Vedavyasa and his disciples, as well as Bhagavan Bhagavad Sri Shankaracharya and his disciples, as you recall. So Krishna we consider as a form of the Lord, which is in the form of a great teacher. So this teacher is very important for the Vedanta sadhaka, because after all, this whole jnana is what we want. This Atma Jnana is what we want, and that can be only obtained through study of Upanishads, study of Upanishad Vakya, and this Upanishad Vakyas are given in simple form for all humanity by Lord Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita, and his whole life, his whole Avatara Karya is a illustration of how a jnani will live in this world. If you see how a person who is endowed with the supreme wisdom, how he will conduct himself, that is what Krishna Paramatma in this avatara has been showing us. So therefore, Bhagavan Sri Krishna in that particular form is considered a Jagat Guru, and therefore becomes very crucial for worship of all Vedanta sadhakas. So in this text also, in Prabodha Sudhakara also, Krishna Paramatma, that particular form is considered as the locus of bhakti that all sadhakas must have. Of course, if one prefers a different form, if one has some attachment to a different form, that is okay. We can replace this whole form of Krishna with that particular form. As we understand from the dharmic tradition, we don't differentiate between the greatness of one form over another form. That is not of importance here. What is important here is we recognize that the consciousness principle, the conscious principle behind all the forms is one and one alone, which is Bhagavan, which is real Ishvara. So that Ishvara may take various forms. The forms do not limit Ishvara. The forms are of Ishvara only. There is only one and only one Ishvara only. There are not many. So here Krishna is taken up. We can also observe the same bhakti with every other form of Bhagavan. In our mind, we should not entertain the idea that one form is greater, another form is lesser in any way, even though the forms may have their own specialities. Like Krishna form has some specialities. Sri Rama, in that form, Bhagavan has some specialities. In the form of Lord Dakshinamurti, some specialities, etc. So like that, various special aspects are available in every form. But the consciousness principle behind every form remains the same. So here Krishna form is taken up. So Bhagavad Padal is mentioning about Krishna Bhakti. So Krishna Padambhoja Bhaktim Rite, Krishna Padambhoja Bhaktim Rite, Krishna Padambhoja Bhaktim Rite, Shuddhyati na Antaratma. This Antaratma, that is this Antarindriyam, that is the Manas, the mind does not become purified. Na Shuddhyati, does not become purified unless it is endowed, unless it is filled with Krishna Padambhoja Bhakti, unless it is filled with bhakti towards the feet of the Lord. That is the meaning of the first half. Vasanamiva ksharodaihi bhaktya prakshalyate chetaha. So, what happens when the mind attains bhakti? It becomes purified, it becomes cleansed from all impurities. What are the impurities? The impurities are the Shadripuhu, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryadi, Shadripuhu. It becomes purified of all impurities. The essential impurity being Kama. Ajnana is the deeper reason for these impurities. But here, in this context, before the removal of Ajnana to Jnana, the higher layer, that is the second layer onwards, the impurities become Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, starting from desire or attachment towards various worldly things. Then Krodha, which stands for anger, greed, which stands for, Lobha, which stands for greed, Moha, which stands for delusion, delusive thinking, confused thinking, Mada, which stands for a mind which is in the grip of its emotions, which is not under control. Then Matsarya, which stands for jealousy or envy. So all these aspects force us to or control our mind to forget our real nature. To be alive, we are not allowed by the mind which is rid with these defects, with these problems. We are not allowed by that mind to be aware of our own nature. So if one wants to be aware of one's own nature, we have to give up these wrong thinking. These defects have to be removed from the mind, and this cannot be removed from the mind unless there is yoga based life or bhakti based life. That is, karma yoga and upasana yoga have to be done. Karmanushtanam with bhakti, upasana with bhakti, to the exclusion of worldly things, has to be performed. So bhakti is therefore very important. Thus this bhaktya prakshalyate chetaha. This bhakti, through this bhakti, the mind chetaha prakshalyate. This mind becomes purified. The bhakti purifies the mind. One analogy is given here, vasanamiva ksharodaihi. Like when we are washing the clothes, we wash them using water, which is not plain water, but it is water with some detergent-like agent. Ksharodaihi means it is water, but it is filled with some salts, some kind of a rubbing agent, which will rub against the dirty clothes and remove the dirt which is there in them. After removing those dirt, when one looks at these old clothes, they become fresh, they become purified from all the dirt. So vasanam means cloth, the piece of cloth. Then ksharodaihi yad prakshalyate. So as the clothes become purified or cleansed by this waters which is filled with the detergent like material, the rubbing agents, in the same way the mind becomes purified through bhakti. That is the meaning of this verse. So therefore this verse is telling bhakti is very much necessary. Moving on. यद्वत् समलादर्शे सुचिरं भस्मादिना शुद्धे प्रतिफलति वक्त्रमुच्चैः शुद्धे चित्ते तथा ज्ञानम्. So another verse here, which is a very important verse, is mentioned here, which highlights the role of bhakti in the whole jnana parampara, in the whole process of attaining the spiritual knowledge of one's own self. You see, in Vedanta, as we understand, as we have seen before, this Jiva Brahma Aikyam or real Atma Jnanam is the goal or is the thing to be had for gaining moksha. Moksha is what we want. For gaining moksha, Atma Jnanam is relevant. Atma Jnanam is necessary. To gain Atma Jnanam, what is Atma Jnanam? What I am, I have to know. What I am truly, I have to know. So therefore, the implication here is that the ajnanis, the samsaris, that is the people who are entering the Vedanta, who are still in the state of being a sadhaka, who are not jnanis, they don't know their real nature, then they have to struggle to gain the knowledge of their real nature. However, this real nature does not change. The conclusion of Vedanta is that the Atma is ever pure, ever free, does not remain in samsara at any point, does not engage in samsaric ideas, samsaric delusion at any point. Nitya Shuddha Mukta Swabhavaha Atma. Nitya Shuddha Nitya Shuddha Mukta Swabhavaha. It is always pure, it is never impure, it is always free, it has never been bound. So this Atma or the real nature of yourself has never been bound at all. So you don't really have any real suffering to which you have to be free of. This is what the Shastra is teaching us. We don't have anything to do to be free. We only have to know our real nature. No special effort is needed except for knowing our real nature. So this being the case, the question may arise, for what reason I have to practice bhakti? Bhakti, it's not going to change me because I am already pure. I am already free. I don't have any problem. You are only teaching, the Guru is only teaching, the Shastra is only teaching that there is no problem at all because you are already free. You are already pure. So why are you suffering? That is the question from the Shastra. So our problems, whatever we are saying, that I am in suffering, I have sorrow, I have to be overcome sorrow, I don't want to be born again, I want to be free from the cycle of birth and death, etc. All our efforts are centered on this I, this wrong understanding of I, that this I is suffering, I am suffering. So I, the self, is suffering. I, the self, is born and it can die. That is only I want to say that I have to be free from birth and death. If I know very clearly that I am free from birth and death, then why would I say I am suffering? Right? So I am not suffering. I am not subject to birth and death. I am ever free. I am ever pure. I don't have any defects. This is the conclusion of the Shastra. This being the case, why should I need bhakti at all in the first place? This question is a very much valid question which may come. The Shastra, however, says, you see, this bhakti is not needed for you, the self, because the self is always pure. The bhakti is needed only for the mind to become pure. The mind alone requires bhakti. The mind which is filled with defects requires bhakti to be free from all defects, to be cleansed from all the defects. The self, the Atman, which is ever pure, before bhakti, before samsara, that is during samsara, also it is pure. When the person is doing sadhana, then also the Atman is pure. When the person is free, moksha, mukta purusha, then also the self is pure. The self is pure. The Atma remains Atma always. In the Atma itself, there is no change. Whereas in the mind, there is change. The mind needs to undergo purification process. Right? So why does the mind need to undergo the purification process? The mind needs to undergo this cleansing process, the shuddhi it needs, because knowledge of Atma happens in the mind only. Moksha is for the mind only. As long as you are thinking, I am mind, till that point, there is a need for sadhana. If you say, I am not mind, then for you, sadhana is not required. But whether that is really true or not, whether the claim is really true or not, that you have to verify. If you say, I am free from, that is, I am not the mind, then you are free from all troubles. If you say, I am not restricted by the mind, you are free from all troubles, because all troubles come to the mind only. Why do you have to bother? Samsara is for the mind only. Why do you have to bother? If you have the confidence in that, then sadhana is not required because the person is already a jnani. However, sadhana is required for the person who says, well, I have suffering, I have sorrow, I have displeasure, I have anger, I have desire. All of these are mental properties. They are properties of the impurified mind only. So a person who says that I am affected by all of this, I feel affected by samsara. I feel affected by my desires. I feel disturbed by my anger. The person who says all of this must therefore struggle to cleanse the mind. In the clean mind, the knowledge that I am not mind arises. To repeat, the knowledge that I am not mind, na manaha aham atmaiva. I am the self only. I am the consciousness principle only. I am not the mind which is having ups and downs. This knowledge itself arises only in the mind which is purified. So therefore, to purify the mind is very much a requirement which is being done by this practice of bhakti. So to describe this, a beautiful analogy is given in the Shastra, which Bhagavad Padal is encountering, which Bhagavad Padal is providing here. Yaduvat samalaadarshe suchiram bhasmadina shuddhe uchchaihi vaktram pratiphalati. Yadvat, just like, so analogy, samalaadarshe, adarsha means mirror, samalaadarshe means the mirror which is filled with dirt, the mirror on which you find lot of dust and dirt and other things. Bhasmadina suchiram shuddhe. So that mirror, originally, if you see your face in that dirty mirror, you will not be able to see anything clearly. It will show something, but whatever it is showing is not your face. It is showing a very corrupted, dirty image of your face. It is an image, no doubt. The real face does not have any dirt. That is the idea here. The real face that you have, it does not have any dirt. It does not have any impurities. However, the mirror is filled with lot of impurities and lot of dust and lot of dirt. So therefore, the reflection seems to be dirty, seems to be incorrect, seems to be distorted. If this mind, so in order to see a clear reflection, what you have to do, you have to cleanse the mirror only. Your face is already clean, so there is nothing to clean there on the face. Whatever the face is shown there in the mirror. So the mirror, if it is purified, the mirror, if it is cleaned, then it will reflect the face without any mistake, without any imperfections. Suchiram bhasmadina shuddhe. So if this mirror is cleansed with bhasma, that is some kind of ash, you can say, if it is cleansed with that, and if it is purified, then suchiram, purified for long enough time, because the dust and dirt also have collected over a long time. So therefore, the purification will take some time. Purification of the mirror in this case will take some time. Bhasmadina shuddhe. If that happens, if that is cleaned using these ingredients, then vaktram pratiphalati. Vaktram means face is seen on the mirror. Pratiphalati means it is reflected on the mirror. Uchchai, it is reflected in a perfect manner without any imperfections. So observe this analogy here. The original face that you have is not having any imperfections. The mirror prior to cleaning has imperfections, so it doesn't reflect the original face properly. After cleaning, the mirror doesn't have any imperfections, so it reflects the pure face. It reflects the face in a pure manner without having any impurities, without showing any blemishes. A perfect reflection appears. So what has changed? The face has not changed. It is only the mirror's purity which has changed. In the same way, chitte tatha jnanam. Chitte tatha jnanam pratiphalati, you can add. So in the same way, this Atma Jnanam also, which is like the face. This Atma is like the face, the original face, which does not have any impurity. This original face appears when it is reflected on the purified mind. Then This Atma Jnanam is the gain. It is the clear knowledge about what one is. That knowledge is gained. If the mind is not purified, then the mind does not reflect the true nature of the self. So therefore, the mind reflects only a distorted view of oneself, which we say as karta, bhokta, jnata, ityadi. So I am the doer, I am the experiencer, I am a limited person. These are the distorted view of the self. I am the individual. I am a suffering individual. I have likes and dislikes. I have desires about various things. I am afraid of various things. All these aspects of individuality are imperfect reflections of the self. The perfect reflection of the self will result in Atma Jnanam, will result in the knowledge of one's true nature, that I am not the body or mind, but I am this Advitiya Atma. I am this Atma with this, which is Nitya Shuddha Mukta Swabhavaha. I don't have any problems. I am infinite. I was never born. I never died. I can never die. I can never cease to exist. I am infinite. I don't have any limitations. This true knowledge of oneself arises in the purified mind, the mind which is purified using bhakti. So therefore, bhakti is important. Continuing, Janantu tatra bijam haribhaktya jnaninos ye syuh murtam chaiva murtam dve eva brahmano rupe tatra bijam janantu. So know the reason. So Acharya is teaching us something here. Tatra bijam janantu. Know the reason. Reason for what? Haribhaktya ye jnanino syuh. Those who have become, know the reason by which or because of which those who have become the jnanis by the practice of Haribhakti. So the jnanis have become jnanis by the practice of Haribhakti. Now understand how that leads to knowledge. How Haribhakti leads to knowledge. So Bhagavad Padal is going to describe the process, describe the ingredients of the process and the process. What is the ingredients? First, he defines the two types of, two natures of Bhagavan. We say natures, but actually one of them is true nature, another one is intermediate true nature. That is, it is not fully true, but it is only having partial truth and partial untruth. Nature of what? Nature of Bhagavan. Murtam chaiva amurtam cha. Murtam amurtam dve eva brahmano rupe. Brahmano here means Ishvara. Ishvara. Ishvara has two kinds of forms, two kinds of natures. You see, what are the two kinds? One is Murtam. One is a Bhagavan with form, Saguna Ishvara. Another one is Amurtam, Bhagavan without form, Nirguna Ishvara. Saguna and Nirguna. These are the two natures of the Lord. These are the two ways in which one can worship the Lord. That is more appropriate. Nature, in what way you approach the Lord, there are two types. Bhagavan is really of one nature only, but in what way you approach the Lord, that is of two types. In what way the devotees may approach the Lord, that is of two types. One is Amurtam, that is without form. Another one is with form. So what do you do with that? How jnanis have become jnanis by Hari Bhakti is what the idea is here. To describe that, first, this Hari means what? This Hari, Bhagavan, is to be approached in what ways? That is being talked about here by Bhagavad Padar, according to, of course, what is there in the Vedas and the Smritis. As you know, as that goes, now he's saying, इत्युपनिषत्तयोर्वा द्वौ भक्तो भगवदुपदिष्टौ क्लेशादक्लेशाद्वा मुक्तिः स्यादेतयोर्मध्ये. So he says Bhagavan is to be approached in two ways, Murtam, Amurtam in the previous verse. In that way, who is telling? It is not his opinion. Upanishad is telling. Iti Upanishad. In this way, the Upanishads are describing the Lord. So there is a direct verse apparently in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says this Brahma, this Bhagavan is in two ways, Murtam, Amurtam. Those precise words are used in the Upanishad. So he says, Iti Upanishad, Tayoho Dvau Bhakto Bhagavad Upadishtau. So, with respect to these two natures of the Lord, with respect to these two approaches to the Lord, Murtam, Amurtam, form and formless, there are two types of people who worship the Lord in these two different ways. One person, one kind of, both of them are devotees. So, Bhaktaha, both of them are devotees, but one of them approached the Lord, one of them worshipped the Lord in the nature of him as a Lord Bhagavan with form. Another one approaches the Lord in his nature without form, Amurtam. Bhagavad Upadishtau, Bhagavan is saying this. Bhagavan has described this, you can say. Kleshad akleshad va muktihi syat tayor madhye. So these two devotees who are approaching the Lord via two different ways. So here Bhagavad Padal is saying one of them have a kleshad muktihi. One of them attain liberation after passing through many difficult times, whereas the other person, the other kind of devotee, akleshad muktihi, the other kind of devotee attains muktihi through in a easy manner comparatively. Tayor madhye, between these two, one of them is having a easy time or a less difficult time towards moksha, whereas the other person attains the same goal, no doubt, attains mukti, no doubt, but has a difficulty in doing that, has a more tougher time in doing that. So why does he say this? Essentially, the idea is that this devotee who approaches the Lord through the worship of the Saguna Ishvara, Murtam form, the Bhagavan with form, attains the Lord more easily, attains mukti more easily than the person who attains the Lord through worship of or through upasana of uh, the form without, or the Bhagavan without form, that is Bhagavan without gunas, nirguna Ishvara. Both of them are doing bhakti only, but one of them has a easier time, whereas the more pleasant time with the sadhana, whereas the other individual who is doing the worship of the Bhagavan without characteristics, without gunas, has a more difficult time with it. Why Bhagavan is saying that? So some of us, some of you who may have some exposure to Vedanta before, know that Bhagavan is ultimately nirguna. Nirguna Nirakara Swarupa. Bhagavan is without form and he doesn't have any gunas. That is, he is not having any properties. That is, he is not limited by any properties. All whatever we say about Bhagavan, these are the gunas of Bhagavan. He has compassion, or he has a particular form, or he has he always speaks the truth. He is Satyasandaha. He never lies. And he has a lot of compassion towards his devotees, etc. These are all gunas of Bhagavan. But these gunas do not become limiting for the Lord. So therefore, he transcends all these gunas. In other words, the opposites, truth and untruth, compassion and cruelty, and ability and inability, then understanding and non-understanding, knowledge and ignorance, all of these which are dual characteristics, these dual characteristics both together never apply to the Lord. Neither Bhagavan can be said to be having uh, all knowledge, nor he is said to be having no knowledge, really speaking. Similarly, neither Bhagavan is really compassionate, nor he is not compassionate. Neither Bhagavan is truthful, nor he is a liar. Bhagavan is not limited by opposites. Bhagavan cannot be described by any one side of the opposites. Bhagavan is everything and nothing altogether. Bhagavan transcends all our understanding, all our mental classifications of all kinds. To indicate that, the Upanishads say Bhagavan is nirguna. So it is an intricate point that Bhagavan is nirguna. It is not easy to grasp, you see. Even when we are discussing this, it is not clear to us what it really means for Bhagavan to be nirguna. Always our minds can adapt or can concentrate on things which have gunas or properties, whereas the mind finds it very difficult to concentrate on things or something without any property at all. So you cannot imagine it to be any particular thing. Suppose I say there is a thing, it has a certain shape. It is round in shape, or it is square in shape, it is rectangular in shape. You find it easier to imagine. Suppose if I mention that there is a thing, it does not have any shape at all. So it is nirguna with respect to shape. It does not find itself being limited to any shape. So you cannot draw it, you cannot imagine it also. Try to imagine it. Try to imagine a thing which doesn't have any shape. And we will understand how difficult it is. In the same way, when the Upanishads say that Bhagavan is nirguna, it is difficult for us to imagine what it is. So therefore, Bhagavan here is saying this Amurta worship, the person who worships, the devotee who worships the Amurta aspect of the Lord, the non-dual, uh, not the non-dual, the non-characteristics based version of the Lord, the person who tries to worship, the devotee who approaches the Lord with this nirguna bhakti finds it difficult immediately, that is, without having prior practice, without having a long-term practice of Saguna Bhakti, directly going to the Nirguna Bhakti approach, directly approaching the Lord in the Nirguna nature is a very difficult task. So, approach Bhagavan first through Saguna Bhakti, then this Saguna Bhakti slowly transforms by the grace of the Lord, by the grace of the Guru, into Nirguna Bhakti. Then that process is a much more easier process. So hence, therefore, this distinction is made as to which one is easier. Saguna Bhakti followed by Nirguna Bhakti is easier than directly going for Nirguna Bhakti in general. That is the idea here. स्थूला सूक्ष्मा चेति द्वेधा हरिभक्तिरुद्दिष्टा प्रारंभे स्थूला स्यात् सूक्ष्मा तस्या सकाशाच्च. So this bhakti, which is described in two ways in the previous verse, Saguna and Nirguna based. So here the Saguna based is taking one particular direction, and the Nirguna based is taking another direction, or it is characterized. The Nirguna Bhakti people, the devotees who are approaching the Lord in Nirguna form, after passing through the Saguna Bhakti phase, they have a certain different nature compared to those who are entering or who are beginning the worship in the Saguna phase. So first Saguna, then Nirguna. Saguna, those who are devotees of the Saguna form of the Lord, the Saguna Rupa of the Lord, Bhagavan, these people have some characteristics. Their life is described by some characteristics. The bhakti of such people is described by some characteristics, whereas the bhakti of those who have progressed slowly from the Saguna Bhakti through that process are described by another set of characteristics. So these two characteristics which describe the two kinds of bhakti here are said to be the two kinds of bhakti classified under these characteristics is said to be two types, sthula and sukshma. Sthula bhakti, sukshma bhakti. So sthula sukshma cheti dvedha hari bhaktir uddishta. So the shastras are saying they are describing two types of hari bhakti, sthula hari bhakti and sukshma hari bhakti. प्रारंभे स्थूला स्यात् सूक्ष्मा तस्या सकाशाच्च. So initially, prarambhe sthula syat. Initially, one starts with the sthula bhakti. Sthula means gross, that is with form. Bhakti, which is done attached to the physical form of the Lord, you can say. Then sukshma tasyaha sakashacha. Slowly it transforms into the sukshma bhakti, which is a more internal and contemplative form of worship, one can say. That is the appropriate word. Contemplative form of worship. Physically dominant form of worship. That is dominant by physical actions, etc. One kind of worship, initial stage. Then further developed stage, contemplative, internal, mental forms of worship. That is sukshma bhakti. That is the next stage. So these are the two type of bhakti which is there. In the next verses, Bhagavan is going to describe, Bhagavad Pada is going to describe these two different forms of worship, one after the another, via a series of verses. We will see these in the next meeting. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi.